Have you always wanted to visit India, but the hassle of planning and the intensity of group schedules is putting you off? Hi, I'm Craig, owner and tour leader of Maharaja Tours. With 40 years experience traveling India, I curate stress-free luxury tours where you can expect top hotels, easy travel, excellent guides, and delicious food. Visit my website, www.maharajatours.co.nz, and explore your options for touring incredible India.
A survey by the General Practice Owners Association shows general practices are struggling to recruit enough doctors, and 9 out of 10 are increasing patient fees to stay afloat. However, the survey also suggests that the veil of gloom over general practice has partially lifted. Fewer are making a loss and more are maintaining their service levels than in previous years. Chair of GenPro Dr Angus Chambers says general practice is out of intensive care but is still in the recovery room, and he joins me now. Angus, good afternoon.
Hi, Leah.
It's nice to see you again. The GenPro annual pulse survey, can you tell us how many general practices took part?
This year, I think, is around about 225, so that would be about half of our members and a quarter of the total general practice general practices in New Zealand.
Right, so it was a good number of GP. Yeah,
we're
nice.
pleased by that. Yeah,
are general practices, as you've said, finally out of the worst of the crisis? You've phrased it. Now they're in the recovery room. What does that actually look like?
Yeah, look, there's definitely some positives in the survey. But, so the sun is breaking through a little bit, but there's still some pretty dark clouds. And the big ones for us would be that still there's 18% of people made a loss in the last quarter. Now, if 18% of people continue to make a loss, they're going to go bust. They're not allowed to trade insolvent, and communities will lose those general practices. But that's certainly down from about 25% last year. We have another question about, are you concerned about your future financial viability? And last year it was something like 82%. This year it's down to 65%. So still people are worried, but there's some definite improvements here. So basically around the financials, we're seeing a bit of a recovery.
I see, though, 4 out of 5 general practitioners are not taking new patients. Is that? Or they are. Is that an improvement?
Yeah, look, probably the better one we look at there are your books closed, which I think is not taking enrolments. And there's a modest improvement. So last year, 24% of people had their books closed. This year, it is 19%. So we've gone from 1 in 4 practices with closed books to 1 in 5. It's a step in the right direction.
As it is, I still see, though, 90%, I think it was around about 90% of the doctors are still increasing their patient fees, which they say, they say they have to stay afloat. That's not good news for patients, though, is it?
No, certainly it isn't. And but look, if your costs are going up and your revenue is either stable or going down, then you have to do something. And if you're trading at a loss, what can you do? Actually, most years, general practices put their fees up nowadays. I think probably 15 years ago that wasn't the case, but it's become the norm. The government could reduce that pressure a lot. They actually did this year with the increased funding that they've paid to GPs. But if they, there's a kind of a slightly mechanistic formula around of all of this, but if they increase the funding by this amount, then GPs are allowed to put their fees up by that amount. But if the government funding went up substantially more, GPs wouldn't be able to put their fees up without risk of being referred to a government committee to decide on the appropriateness. So it is within the government's hands to prevent fees increase, reduce the pressure on fees.
Well, that's if they've got the money, Angus. I mean, everyone wants more money.
They do.
In the health sector.
So, I guess the question is, though, is the investment here save money in the long term? And I think the evidence is pretty clear. So while they might not have the money now, if they don't spend it now, they're going to spend more later. So very, very hard choices we accept, but there's good investment logic behind it.
Can we address staffing levels? Why is it so hard to recruit doctors and nurses right now?
Look, there's a threefold problem, or two or threefold. The first is an absolute failure of planning by the decision makers in our system. We've been warning of this general practitioner shortage for decades. They've known it's been coming, and they have done absolutely nothing about it until very recently. So, that's just an indictment of our political and bureaucratic planning system. The next step is that, yes, they've made some efforts recently by increasing places in medical schools. It's better late than never, you might say, in the new medical school. But by the time a GP qualifies coming out of Waikato, we're probably talking 10, 12, 14 years from now. So there's a heck of a long lead time. So the first thing is a failure of planning, and it's a real indictment on our system. The second is it's become progressively less attractive to become a GP, and that is by and large because of the pay, and the pay is intimately related to the funding. If you're making a loss, you can't put the pay up, and so we've not attracting people into our profession, and we're not retaining them as much as anything. And then there's that third factor. I think we've spoken before about it, but we're in an international market competing for medical professionals, and there's the UK is a fantastic source of really well-trained, great doctors for New Zealand, but they're also looking at Australia and Canada, and the pay there is substantially more. And we're actually now starting to attract Americans for some reason. And but they're also looking at other areas. So, and then finally, we're getting our staff sucked out of our practices by the telehealth services because they often pay more and it's an easier job.
It seems Australia now just must be the best country in the world for the best doctors, the best nurses, the best firemen, the best police, everyone's going to Australia, it seems.
Well, that's right. I mean, lovely beaches and snow doesn't spin everybody's wheels. And of course, they've got lovely beaches in Australia. Their snow's not as good, I
They also
hear.
got spiders and snakes, Angus, and they're full of Australians.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it is a problem. It's a English-speaking language. They've got great systems, and it's very attractive to people.
We spoke about general practices, and closing off their books. Some practices had to reduce their services last year. Is that still a big issue?
I think we're seeing that dwindling a bit. I think that's all part of the same. I mean, the funding, the workforce, it's all interrelated. And if you're trying to kind of retrench so that you can focus on, firstly, providing patient care, but also perhaps maybe the more profitable areas and some of the stuff you've been giving away for a while, you decide to not do that. I think that's the problem. The closed books is clearly related to the general practitioner vacancy rate. If we, our practices closed their books off and on over the last couple of years, we hate to do it, but we can't provide the care to our own patients if we keep growing. But if we had enough doctors, we would have not had closed books, and we would have enrolled quite a lot more people, but it's really hard to get the staff.
Yeah. We talked to you, you mentioned funding. The government allocated $175 million in new funding for general practices in their 2025 budget. Have we, what we're talking about, is this because of that? We're starting to see the difference? The sun through the clouds?
Have you always wanted to visit India, but the hassle of planning and the intensity of group schedules is putting you off? Hi, I'm Craig, owner and tour leader of Maharaja Tours. With 40 years experience traveling India, I curate stress-free luxury tours where you can expect top hotels, easy travel, excellent guides and delicious food. Visit my website www.maharajatours.co.nz and explore your options for touring incredible India.